Hey, everybody. In today's episode, it's myself, Benjamin B., and Laura. Laura is the mother of a client that is currently with us at Rock Recovery Center. Now, you may or may not know, but we've been working with Mind Pump now for quite some time, and we've offered a scholarship through Mind Pump. And you'll hear in this episode how God has really intervened in this whole entire situation. I don't want to give it all out right now. But you'll hear in this episode because we are at the start of our family weekend programming, which this happens every 6 weeks. Family members from current clients come here for a Saturday and a Sunday, submersive, all education on addiction, and it's all encompassing addiction. Laura is totally clueless about addiction. This has been her first experience with any of this. So I wanted to do an episode with her to kind of get her thoughts and her processes before family weekend, and then do another episode shortly thereafter to see kind of how her perspective has changed. So in this episode, we just talk a lot about how this all lined up and really, like I said, how God intervened and made all of this possible. So definitely shout out to Mind Pump because, you know, they're a great group of guys and we're so fortunate to be working with them. And I think in this episode, you're just going to see again how God intervened in all of this. So I know you're going to love this. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we also have Laura. Laura, how are you?
I'm good. I'm laughing because I had said that when I get on, I'm going to do the same thing that Ben does. How you doing, everyone?
Yeah. You heard of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, but you don't really know what it is or what it consists of. Well, it has gotten millions of people sober at this point. It came out in the 1930s. And myself and Eric, we want to take you on a journey through the big book so you can better understand what is in this book. It's very influential and has helped millions of people. Now, how do we do this? We go live every single Monday at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Time. How can you become a part of this? Go to realrecoverytalk.com/bigbookstudy and register. It's 100% free. I want to see you there. Family members, loved ones, people in recovery, you're all invited. It's for absolutely everybody. So if this is something that you're interested in, again, realrecoverytalk.com/bigbookstudy, register, and I'll see you on Monday.
It's your key. It's your key phrase. It really is.
Yeah.
How's it going, everyone?
First things first. Thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com, and ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, peeps?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Laura? Pull that mic a little closer to you. There you go. Perfect.
I'm okay.
All right, so let me do a little bit of a introduction here.
Yeah, this is a new spin.
Yeah, so it is officially Saturday morning, right? It's 8:50. We have family weekend starting in roughly an hour, 45 minutes. Laura's here because, as you guys know, we have been, or maybe you don't know, but we've been advertising with Mind Pump. And Mind Pump, through the advertising, we were offering a scholarship for treatment. And interestingly enough, this probably goes back 3 weeks now? 2 weeks?
At least 3 weeks.
At least 3 weeks. Time flies.
Yeah. Ben calls me, I'm in the gym, and says, hey, there's some lady at the front door from Mind Pump. And I'm like, what?
This was early in the morning.
This was early in the morning.
I was here 3 minutes
I was
before you opened
surprised
the
you were
doors.
here.
Yeah.
Where was I?
I don't know.
Oh, I took the day off randomly, I think.
Yeah.
Well, one of you guys was at Adventure.
Oh, maybe you were at
That's
Adventure.
probably what I was doing.
Yeah.
I don't take days off. I made that up in my head.
So anyways, I go to the front door and Laura's there and she's in tears and we're like, okay, come in. What's going on? Yada, yada. So long story short, we sit down and it's me, Laura, and Maya, one of our therapists here. And Laura, you found us from Mind Pump because
Yeah.
you've been a listener of Mind Pump for a long time. And walk us through that. You like looked us up and we were right around the corner or something?
Yeah. So, I actually haven't been listening to Mind Pump as long as they've been around. And I don't know why I wasn't. I mean, if I had known that they were there, I would have been listening to them from the very beginning. And I think I did like a search on Spotify and then found Mind Pump about a year and a half ago. And I love those guys. So anyway, they were Wednesday morning, and just like with you guys, I was going back on past episodes, trying to catch up on all the things I missed, and they were talking about marijuana. And I guess Sal had been a proponent of legalizing it, and then he was like, I think I need to backtrack a little bit because there's new research coming out showing this, that, yada yada. And then they said, we need to reach out to our friends at Rock Recovery and get their spin on this. And then they mentioned, and Sal's awesome. I mean, he's like on the spot about the plugs. He can slide a plug in there without even realizing that he slid it in. And he slid the plug in about the scholarship. And now this is Wednesday morning, or maybe Tuesday morning, but it was Wednesday morning, and it's weird, not weird, but it's amazing when you see God working in your life. And I had been praying for Randy for years. And I was just, constantly asking God, help me. I don't know what to do. And I was listening to this Wednesday morning, and I immediately was like, oh, I should probably reach out to them sometime. But didn't reach out immediately, didn't go to the website. Fast forward, Wednesday night, Randy wasn't home. Now, normally when he wasn't home, I would be on the streets, driving around, looking behind alleys, praying not to find a dead body. But this time, I over my sons, my two older sons, telling me, "Mom, you have to stop. And my friends, you have to stop." So I didn't. I didn't go searching for him. Come to find out, by Thursday morning, he was in jail, and he had been in jail since Wednesday, I guess, afternoon. And they picked, or even early evening, they picked him up for trespassing. I still don't know the details of the trespassing, but what I do know is that previously, throughout the years, or year at least, police would pick him up, or they would call me, and they would have found him at a gas station. He would tell me he was just taking a rest, and they would say he was passed out, from being drunk. So I would always get these two different stories, but he had been stopped by the police multiple times over the year. So this time he was actually in jail, and this is my first experience in all of this. I mean, I've never had anyone, in jail. And I remembered that episode. And again, it was just less than 12 hours I had listened to that episode. I remembered it. And so then I went directly to the link, went to your website, started filling out the application for the scholarship program. And then by the time I had finished, I went down and I saw that you were literally 5 minutes down the road. 2.5 miles from me.
Yeah.
And here I'm thinking, at first I was thinking, okay, I think I can handle a flight to California. I can't afford to get him into a program, but I know I can muster up between my sons and I, a flight. And so I was trying to plan all that and praying to God, please. And so I stopped filling out the application. I've never hit submit. I got in the car and I came down here and was here at the door like 3 minutes before you guys opened. And later felt bad that I was like banging on the door before you guys even opened. But just the fact that all of that came, I mean, the way it all came to be, that was God tapping on my shoulder saying, I got you.
Right.
I've got Randy. I've got you. And and for you guys, and for Sal and Justin and Adam and Doug and Katrina and all of them, he used all of us to help this one person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you guys and Sal and Adam and all, you know, everyone at Mind Pump, you guys are an answer to a prayer.
Yeah.
You know, he used you to help my son, and I will forever. I don't like to cry. So, I will forever be in your debt. I mean, if I'm on the other end of the world and you guys reach out and say, hey, we need yes, before you even finish the question, the answer is yes.
Hey, first off, thanks for letting me interrupt the episode. I want to take this time to invite you into the Sobriety Network. It's our Facebook group that we put together, and it is open to absolutely everybody, family members, loved ones, people in recovery, people that want to be in recovery. We want to see you there, and you can just go into Facebook, type in the Sobriety Network, answer a couple of questions, and we'll let you in. It's a good place for you to come and just talk with people, ask questions, interact, and get the support that you need. So I'm excited to see you there, the Sobriety Network. It was pretty remarkable how everything played out. And I remember sitting there, you know, literally texting Sal as all this is going on. Not even realizing, though, that it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and where he's at, it's like 5. So, but anyways, I mean, it was just, you know, the way everything lined up, you know, it was just like a total God thing, you know? And so here we are. Randy's been with us now a few weeks, and he's thriving. He just worked out with Ben yesterday. He's doing really good. Go ahead.
One thing I want to mention, and I wanted to ask you this too. I was thinking about this prior to, because this seems like one of those situations where you were absolutely clueless that anything like this even existed. And because I was talking to Randy, it was in his first 48 hours. I caught him outside in the back parking lot down by the gym. And I asked him, I'm like, is this anything what you thought it would be like? He was like, not at all. Like, he had no idea. You know, I imagine when because Randy came in, I wasn't here. You know, Tom mentioned he was sitting with Maya, our therapist, himself, and you. And I can just imagine, oh, no, he sat with us. Yeah, I got my story mixed
Friday
up.
morning.
You brought him in to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember him sitting there, and, like, it's almost like sometimes I feel like I'm telling somebody all the opportunity, but what they're hearing is, oh my gosh, this is like a prison sentence.
Sure, that's what
right? Like, so many people are thinking that this is a sentence and a consequence, when in reality it's an opportunity. Tom says it all the time to people that are sitting with us in these intervention type situations. They're like, dude, you have a winning lotto ticket. All you have to do is scratch it.
Yeah.
And they don't realize. So my question to you from your perspective, because I got Randy's answer, like, it was nothing what he expected it to be. You know, he's actually like having fun while growing in all sorts of ways. But for yourself, like, did you realize anything like this existed? What was your pre-existing idea, if you will, of what rehab was? Or
so since I don't have a wide lens of the recovery world, you guys are my only frame of reference. But what I've already told some of my friends who are aware of what our family's been going through, what amazed me even before getting him into the program is how you guys reached out. I hadn't paid a dime. I hadn't given you any insurance information, and yet you were just available. And I think I have it on text more than once. You guys were like, "We got you."
Yeah.
And that blew me away. You guys are not in this because, and like I've heard you say on a few podcasts where people are like, oh, you guys are making hand over fist. I don't know if I can swear on this, but that is complete bullshit, because you guys are not in this for the money. It shows. You're in this because you genuinely care. You want to make the world a better place. You want people to live, truly live. And the way you reached out with your hearts was just because for years I've just been drowning, barely keeping my head above water. Um, and so no, it's not at all what I expected. I expected that. I don't know. I actually don't know what I expected. My friends are surprised that, I've been able to have contact with Randy. And my future daughter-in-law cares very much about Randy. He's basically her little brother. And I knew that if I didn't give her, like, whoa, pull back on the reins, she'd be texting him every day. How you doing? What's going on? How you doing? um, but I told her, I said, yes, we can be in contact with him, but he needs to be in the program. That's where his focus needs to be. But she was just grateful that she even had contact with him, that she wanted to know he was okay. And we imagined that there would be no contact, that you guys would take his phone, and pretty much isolate him in a room. But from what I understand, that's what a lot of programs are like. And having listened to your podcast, like you guys have said multiple times, how do you expect someone to function in the world when you've isolated them like that? You've isolated them, and then you throw them back out into the world, and then they relapse because they haven't learned how to live in the world sober. So the fact that you guys, I think it's a benefit that you let them keep their phones, because they have to learn how to function normally. Does that make sense?
I'm so glad that's the message you got, because I literally get on the phone with parents, and a lot of times it tends to be parents whose kids have been through centers previously. With you had nothing to base it off of. You just kind of took our word for what it was.
Yeah.
But you tend to hear it from the parents that, for what it's worth, think that they know better. And they'll get on the phone with me and they're like, what's your phone policy? Oh, they're allowed to have their phones. Yeah, you're not the program for us. Not understanding the principle behind what we're doing. There's a reason we're doing it. And it's exactly what you just said. They've already isolated themselves in their addiction. Why are we going to do that here?
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong. You have to have some control and structure, and there's situations where we have to adjust a little bit different. But that's why we're professionals, because we navigate them individually versus let's just isolate everybody. And this is the case for every person that walks through the door. We bring people in here, and we treat everybody a little bit different based off of the way that they come in. It just...
Right.
There are situations in which, Randy was fortunate to where he was able to bypass a couple levels of care, hence he was in jail. So, he was quote unquote detoxed, right? Now you go into detox in residential. So call it day 1 to day 21 or day 30. Yeah, you can't have your phone and stuff like that because they're at very high risk of multiple things, right? And I think that is now Randy got to bypass that because he's 21, right? It's not like he's in his 50s, been drinking for 30 years, and he was able to come straight into the program. But to Ben's point, we don't take phones, we don't take computers, we don't take laptops. I mean, in the 11 years we've been operating, I think we've taken maybe 2 phones, and I can't even tell you why. I'm led to believe that it was probably because of probably pornography or gaming or something along those lines.
Sometimes our client requests it. Will you take my phone?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, no, we will not, actually.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because and again, I don't remember the specifics, but I'm assuming that was because clients had asked us to take their phone.
Yeah.
Which is good, but I want to get to, so we're here, it's family weekend, and you've never experienced this before. This is all completely new to you. What I want to do is I want to do this episode today, and then I want to do one after family weekend and kind of see how your perspective has changed or what you learned, what you took away from it. When we do that, it will probably maybe be early part of next week if you're available
Mhm.
at any time, just because I want to make sure it's fresh in your mind. But what are some of the things up to this point? I mean, you're 3 weeks into this. What are some of the things that like you've taken away thus far out of maybe the treatment process? What have you learned like for yourself and stuff like that?
Well, you guys have asked me to write this impact letter for this weekend, and when I first was told to write the impact letter, I was like, "Ugh, I really don't want to do this. I don't see the point." I felt like, and just even the definition of the word impact, right? I felt like I was going to have to write a letter that was basically going to be me beating him over the head with the same stick that I've been beating him over the head with for the past many years, and fruitlessly. And it was just going to create more frustration, and I thought, well, what good is it going to do to make him feel worse than he probably already feels? But I did a little bit of research on what an impact letter is, and did a lot of meditating and thinking it over. And after maybe the fourth draft, which it took about eight drafts to get it right, um, I started to realize the impact letter isn't just for me to say, oh, you hurt me in these ways. It was a way for not just for him to take accountability and see, how his addiction has affected other people, but for me to actually be released from that and to realize there's so much that I had no control over. I actually end the letter telling him, how much I thanked God, excuse me, for the day that he was born. And that now I'm at the point where I have to release him back to God. I he's still my son, always be my son, but he is now God's. I have to release him back to the creator that gave him to me. And I learned all that through the process of the impact letter. Now, I know it sounds like, oh, I learned so much through this impact letter. I am a hot mess right now. I'm operating on 3 hours of sleep. My clients throughout the week have been like, what is wrong with you? Because I just couldn't focus. And um, because I've got a little PTSD, and if you're a parent who's, tried to have the conversation and you're always thinking, okay, what's that key phrase I can say that's going to really get them to see it? What's going to get them to want to change, to know that there's a problem? There is no key phrase. There really isn't. And so if you've been down that road so many times, now this whole weekend where it's all focused on that, it's like PTSD. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this again. And so, yeah, I am actually kind of looking forward to doing this with you again at the end to see the before and after. Because right now I'm just my nervous system is at DEFCON 5. Because yeah.
Go ahead.
I wanted to touch on something, and this is for our listeners, because maybe they have a loved one that hasn't been to treatment yet or something along those lines. And I'm glad you brought up the impact letter, because this process is very counterintuitive. Exactly what you said, that is, it's instinct to question, like, hey, this letter sounds like I'm just beating them up with the bat again. However, and this part I want to make clear. If you're hearing this episode, this doesn't mean go write your version of an impact letter and give it to your addicted son or daughter, because that's what it will do, is just beat them up. What makes this different is that impact letter, as you'll see, you're going to get to experience it, so I can't really put it in words anyway. But that's such a small piece of what's happening through the entirety of this weekend. And that's in our control, the staff. Like Maya is there, Steve is there, I'm there. We're there to kind of help navigate this. And it's about the way it's communicated. So it's not just, hey, I wrote this letter of things they did and I'm handing it to them. So if you're listening, don't do that, please. Like, start creating your own treatment plan for your loved one. Like, That's not the purpose. But the fact that you're sitting here too, and I don't know if you heard the episode yet, and I forget what episode it was, but it was a couple ago. We might not even released it yet. But without saying who you were, I brought you up with Tom and was saying that, because we were talking about parents, and the thing that I really appreciated was, and it was you, I'll tell you this now, you sent us a text message saying, do I reach out to Randy? Do I call him and just check in? Like, what do I do? Rather than, because we got parents that'll just blow their phone up all day. You know what I'm saying? But she comes to us first and says, how do I communicate with them from this point?
Yeah.
Which is, that is vital.
Well, it's like what you guys have said over and over again. If you have your own child go through this process, you're not going to handle it yourselves. No matter how versed you are in the field, you're going to take it to a professional. That would be like, me at home saying, oh gosh, you've got a toothache. Let me pull a tooth for you. I'm not a dentist. I'm not going to pull the tooth. I'm going to take him to a professional. This is the same thing. This is no different. And so you as much as parents think they have the best of intentions, and and I can, like, even in my marriage, I was like, I've got this. I can fix this. I can fix this. Of course, now through Al-Anon, I'm learning the little factor of control, that I have in my own personality. You can't control it. You can't make it better. You can't make it worse. Well, I guess you could make it worse. Definitely can make it worse. But yeah, I reach out to you guys for everything, and I really try hard not to reach out to you guys. You said you did the one episode when you talked about the mom that was like, reaching out to you at like midnight or late at night, and yet everything you told her to do, she refused to do.
Yeah.
I was
had
like,
quite a few of those.
I was like, why would you even do that? Why would you reach out if you're not going to follow through on the instructions? I reached out because I don't know what to do. So if I reach out to you because I don't know what to do, why would I completely disregard what you've just told me to do? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I will say it again, what blew me away is that before he even stepped through the doors, you guys were accessible. He was in jail. He was being released. We all thought that he was going to be there for a few days. Maya's the one that called and said that she thought he was going to be released within 24 hours because it was his first time. And I texted you guys. Again, he's not in the program. You have only met me for 12 hours. I texted you. I'm like, what do I do? Do I pick him up? Do I let him come out and realize that he's on his own? What do I do? And you gave me some guidance. And what was really great was that you didn't just say, do this. You talked to me. You're like, well, what do you think? And what are you feeling? And what's your instinct tell you? And this is what our experience says you should do this. Well,
and you did everything according to, which was, from our perspective, something that we like to see. Everything that, because I remember you even called and you're like, okay, he's getting out of jail in probably a few minutes. Do I go to the jail and wait for him, or do I not go to the jail and see if he reaches out? And Ben was with me, and I'm like, Ben, what do you think? And Ben was like, I think you should leave him. And so that's what we did.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he was out of jail for however long, and he ended up back at your house. And I remember it was sometime in the evening, and you're like, okay, he's out and he's here. Can you call? And that's when we all got on a phone call, and I kind of beat him up a little bit. But it's different from me. Now, here's the thing about Randy, and we got to give him kudos.
Mm-hmm.
He, of course, had answers to everything. Everybody does. But in the end, and I distinctly remember him saying this, he's like, I don't have a choice. And I'm like, you're right. Actually, I said, you do have a choice. It's up to you what one you pick. You either come to us and do the deal, or you go kick it on the streets. Those are your options. And I'm like, Randy, because he was like, I wasn't, I was just making beats and making music. I'm like, listen, I said, I've been sober for almost 15 years and I've yet to get arrested. Normal people don't just get arrested at a gas station, for whatever reason. None of us seem to even know the truth yet.
Yeah.
So I said, this is the position that you're in. And he said, I don't have a choice. And, he did it, and he's here and he's doing well, I think.
I had been trying to communicate with him after he got released because he didn't come straight home at all. I don't even know what he did from the time he got released to the time he actually came home at 11:30 or something. And he hadn't been responding. Come to find out, his phone and everything was stolen, wherever it was stolen, at the jail or before and after. But I had no communication with him. So he came home and I was standing in the threshold. Now, keep in mind, his brothers have been telling me to do this for a very long time. They're like, we love him, but enough is enough. He's had so many people to step in and try and help him. And he just pushes us all away. And, we're the ones overreacting, blah, blah, blah. And so I stood in the threshold and I could not have done that without you guys. They're like, you need to do this. And without getting into this, there was a period of time of his childhood where I had been going through my own stuff, through a really bad divorce, and I was not strong enough to be the mom I should have been for him. But standing in that doorway, not letting him in, telling him the rubber has met the road. You cannot come through this door anymore until you get help. That was me telling myself, and that was you guys in the back of my head. If I couldn't be strong, if I wasn't strong enough for him then, I need to be strong enough for him now.
That was the best love you could have gave him, because there's a saying in this thing, you can literally love your kid to death when you're dealing with addiction.
Yeah. One of you guys said the phrase, I loved it. I wrote it down in my notebook. I'd rather step on your toes than step on your grave.
Mm-hmm.
That's Ben.
Oh, what a great quote.
I'm sitting here kind of thinking about this, and I'm listening to your mindset, because I'll be straightforward with you. Like we've been saying, a lot of times we get parents that think they know better, and what you've done a really good job at is asking and taking the suggestions. And I'm sitting here correlating. You found us on Mind Pump, which is all about fitness. You're a personal trainer, and I kind of wanted to draw an analogy real quick. I'm willing to bet, because I was a personal trainer in my active addiction prior to doing this. And it's kind of, I bet you've experienced this with clients. Actually, I just had a client yesterday come to me.
The same thing.
I just had a client come to me yesterday who's no clue about working out whatsoever. And they're like, Ben, I just want abs. All I want to do is abs. I don't want you to show me anything else. We'll just do abs. And I'm like, well, that's not how that works. I'm going to have you, this is way off, but I'm going to have you doing squats and working out your arms so that you can get your abs. They're not realizing you got to speed your metabolism up by adding muscle tissue throughout your whole body, the nutrition side of it. He just thinks I'm going to take him downstairs and for a half hour every day, just do crunches and sit-ups and every variation of ab exercise, and magically he's going to have a six-pack. This is the same kind of thing, where you got to convince your clients, you got to convince the parents to, if you want to get here, you got to do this over here.
Right.
Where people that just don't know. Right. It's the same. How many times have you had clients at your personal training saying, well, that doesn't look like it aligns with my goal, but you're like, but it totally does.
Yeah.
You just don't know how it does.
Yeah.
And that's your job as a trainer.
Yeah. Like when you've got someone who has a dysfunction in their knee, and you have to convince them that it's not coming from the knee, it's coming from, the foundation of your ankle, or it's coming from your hip, or, it's coming from your SI joint, whatever. It's, I actually have a lady who I'm going to be doing an assessment with this coming week, and she texted me and I said, well, okay, so the assessment's going to take about an hour. She's a potential new client, referred to me from another. And she's like, well, I want to get right to the workout. No, that's not going to happen. Because if I just throw you into a workout and you've got some kind of dysfunction that we haven't assessed yet, you're going to get hurt. And if you don't get hurt now, because as you know, when the injury happens, it didn't just happen; it was building.
Mhm.
Something was behind the scenes, I guess. So anyway, same thing. They know what they know, or I love this. They know what they've learned on TikTok. They know what they've learned on Instagram or some ridiculous video that they saw. And they won't go to the professional. You guys are the professionals. And how we always talk about addicts have to hit rock bottom. I think parents need to hit rock bottom too.
Yeah.
Because when I came to your doors, if you had told me, because he was, when I called you guys to say, what do I do when he gets out of jail? I was literally a half a block down at a gas station. If you had told me, get out of your car, go to the corner at the street light, stand on your head and sing Dixie, I would have done exactly that.
Dang, we should have done that.
Yeah. You got to go get us lunch. Yeah, no.
But I was at rock bottom. I felt like I had done everything. I had said all the right words. I had done everything I could possibly do. And parents need to hit that rock bottom too.
Yeah. You're 100% right. Well, I think that, your experience over this weekend is going to be great. I think you're going to get a lot from it. And I can't wait to do the next one next week and see kind of how your perspective has changed. And Ben, I'm glad you brought up the personal training thing, because that's the thing that makes this even more cool, is that you went through, what is it? NSA?
NASM.
NASM. And your correctional,
I'm focused on corrective care.
Yeah. Which, Mind Pump, they're all about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes it all the more like,
this whole thing's just sweet, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It really worked out.
It's a God thing.
Oh, totally.
Like if you reminisce for a second, all the way back to when we met Sal in Orlando in April of
24.
4.
I don't know. No, it would have been
2023. Yeah. 2023. Like the reason, and this ties into how this all came to be, like the reason Sal, I believe from what I heard him say, like, and my version of it, the reason that he enjoyed sitting with us is because we were talking about spirituality and God, not about personal training and fitness and nutrition, but like he had the opportunity to sit down and talk about his growth spiritually. And just like how everything comes full circle, you were saying earlier, like when we first opened up the podcast, like here we are 2.5 miles down the road. Here you are calling my phone. You're at the front door and Tom just happened to be upstairs already early that morning. Like,
Well, that's what I said to those guys, because we're in a group chat, and I said, I bet you never thought you'd, through your podcast, you'd be getting people sober,
Yeah.
And so it's been quite the journey. And the one thing I remember a lot about that when we were in Orlando. And I remember Ben and we were sitting downstairs because we went to a convention. It was NCI. And I could care less about personal training and, everything that convention had to offer.
Right.
I was not there for that. I was solely there to record podcasts. Mainly Sal. That's the only reason we were there. But I ended up giving whoever it was that I was in communication with, I ended up giving them the wrong room number. And I remember them saying that Sal was like all heated, like, and I think he originally thought they gave him the wrong room number, which they did, but it was because I gave them the wrong room number. So it was like first thing in the morning.
Great first impression.
Yeah. And Adam even told me, or somebody told me, he's like, Sal didn't even want to do the episode. He was so flustered. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
Adam
man.
told us.
Yeah. But it was cool. And I think Sal enjoyed that because it was completely out of the norm of what he normally talks about,
I told Tom this too, and this is more personal. I told this, I haven't said this on air, but I told Tom like a few months later what he didn't realize at the time. I didn't even want to go to Orlando. He talked me into it. I had a lot going on at home. I was still with the ex, and I've kind of gone into it a little bit on the podcast, but I drove up there just like not wanting to be there, probably having one of the worst weeks of my life. And then like Tom gets me to go, and it ended up being one of the best experiences of my life. And after I left there, I was just like, wow, if this wasn't a God thing.
Yeah.
Just so much happened in that couple of days. We podcasted with Chris Powell from Extreme Weight Loss, like Brad Jensen, the sober bodybuilder, just all this stuff.
Yeah.
I was like
Everything lined
dying inside driving up there because of my personal life.
Like when you guys say, you know, turn your mess into your message, that is everything that you guys have been doing, because, you know, you know, I'm here because of my message as a parent, Randy's message through his experience, and the way that we're all interconnected. It's just mind blowing. And then generations down the road, you know, you guys have saved Randy. You know, I'm going to forecast, you know, to being a great dad, you know, and being able to, you know, help his own kids navigate the world. It's just amazing, all through Sal. And sorry, I'm just getting overwhelmed. I'm running in circles, but
Yeah. No, I mean, it all lines up. This is all part of God's plan.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Maya peeked her head in here and gave me the old hurry up sign. So we got to wrap this up. Ben, any final thoughts?
No, thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to the second part of this too, after you get to experience Family Weekend.
Yeah.
Tom's a podcast mastermind.
Yep. Thanks, Laura. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.